So having completed the titles section, which we have checked out here in the O1 titles sequence, keep in mind we're putting everything in separate sequences here to put them together later. And in this case, we've got our titles put together. Looks good. We're happy. Now, keep in mind that later you may want to add a few seconds at the end. So we'll come to that later once we assemble the whole thing later in the master sequence. So let's go to credits. And what I've done for you is I've gone ahead and made a bunch of titles to add in place. And most of what this is about is a mechanical process of making it move. So I'm going to select these things. By the way, a little claim to fame here. Cary Joji Fukunaga was the director of James Bond, No Time to Die. He was actually on a crew I worked with in a youth program in the North Bay like 30 years ago. And he decided what we were doing wasn't for him because he says, I'm going to be a filmmaker. This is not for me. And I said, I think you're going to be that. And he showed up there doing this thing. So no idea who I am, I'm sure, but he's famous. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to Premiere, and I'm going to drop this into place. Now, it's kind of important that you note that when you drop this into place, there probably will not be enough room for it. So I've changed my workspace back to Captions and Graphics. So reset to save layout. I've got the text tool. Notice that the tool bar is in a different place in this layout than it is when it's in editing layout. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to drag this into place. I'm going to drop that and paste my content. Now that's the last thing I used was that font, which is horrible for credits. We want this to be something more read-like, reading style. So I'm going to go to something like Arial or something like it. It's still too big. So I'm going to go with Arial Bold, I think, maybe. And it's still too big, so I'm going to change the size. And again, motor skills make it easier to just kind of drag this down into place. Now, the only problem with getting the size is this still may not fit all the content in here. So if you keep dragging this down, you may run out of space. But I really want this to be smaller. So what you can actually do is grab your selection tool and stretch that out. Now, there's still some issues. As you may recall, we changed the leading value of this. So if I set this to... usually we set this to 0, which is the base. So now I've got the whole thing in there, and it all fits. So you can stretch this out as much as you want to make sure it's all going to be in there. And you can actually add lots more stuff if you want. So I'm going to set this to this way and this way. So I'm using my align and transforms to put that in place. And the next piece is amazingly easy. I tried to hook you guys up with some other videos for how to do this that were way more difficult than they need to be. So I'm going to choose the selection tool. And I'm thinking, would I teach them the other way once they get better at this? No, I'd stick to this way. This is much easier. So we click the selection tool, select nothing up here. Do not select the clip in the timeline. Oh, actually, you do want to select that. So select the clip in the timeline, and that's when this stuff shows up over the roll. If you have this selected, you don't see the roll. It's just not there. I'm like, where is it? Unclick on that, and there's roll. So click roll, and wow, that was easy. So what you still want to do is mess around with your styling and set this to centered or pick a cooler font. But again, it should be easy to read. If you know somebody who's in the credits, you always want to be able to read their name easily and quickly when they show up. Sometimes I'll sit there and watch the credits and see if I know anybody. And so far, I mostly don't, except for Fukunaga, man. That guy knows how to direct a film. He was quite an interesting person. So we get this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to string all these together in one piece in the next video. Check it out.